in lieu of doing minutes according to the Open Meetings Act, but the meeting minutes are very helpful for actually referring back to. So I will try to type up some meeting minutes, and hopefully as part of this meeting, we will find someone who would be more than happy to be the secretary that would be in charge of the minutes for future meetings. So the agenda I'm going to share is welcome and introductions. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so that we can at least get through that part. So my name is Jamie Pratt. I work with the planning department in the Up County planning team, and I was the lead planner on the Ashton Village Center sector plan that was approved last year. And I'm going to turn it over to Don to introduce himself quickly.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Don Ziegler. I'm the Up County Master Plan Supervisor here, and I just want to quickly say thank you all for joining us here today for this advisory committee as we get this process started off and figure out um, how much to meet, how long to meet, when, where, who, and all the other major questions, and getting this advisory committee started and going. So thank you all once again. Um, Jamie, do you just want to do
Yeah, I'm going to
alphabetical
call on
order?
them just because
Sure.
I'm not sure. So first we have Nadine's dog and another person, another dog. So
Well,
Nadine,
also,
oh, go
before
ahead,
we
Don.
do the introductions, I don't know if when we do the introductions, just state who you are, how long you've been in Ashton, and you know your interests. So just so we can all get to know each other a little bit well.
All right,
Hi.
Nadine.
Sure. I've lived in Ashton for 1980 and very interested. And I've been active in a lot of different organizations, the hospital board, the museum, friend school, and feel really lucky to be here in such a wonderful area with wonderful neighbors.
All right, thank you. Amy.
Sure, Amy Med. So I have lived in Ashton since I think 2016. I moved down here from a town near Kennett Square, PA, and I was drawn to the area just because it was somewhat similar to where I came from in Pennsylvania, that sort of transitional rural kind of area. So excited to be here as well.
Thank you. And Jessica.
Hi, my name's Jessica Sidar. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm a realtor with Remax Realty Center in Olney. I live off of Tree Lawn Drive off of New Hampshire Avenue, and have two little boys, and we're very active in the community, um, both in sports and all those fun things, and just actually going for enjoying the local area. Um, and I've lived here for 5 years.
Okay. And next is Kathleen.
So I'm Kathleen Wheeler. I live in Springland Farm, which is just south of where the Cricket Bookstore is. I've lived in Ashton for 29 years. Before that, I was in Olney for 6 years. I was actively involved in the 1998 Sandy Spring Ashton Master Plan. And we moved over from Olney and have loved Ashton just because it's a little bit more small town than Olney. And so anyway, just happy to be here.
All right. And next I will go to let's go to Leanne.
Hi, sorry, I have the wrong name on there. I'm Leanne Clements. We've lived in Ashton from 2018, but we came from Washington, D.C., so not too far away. And I have twins at the Sandy Spring Friends School, and we live right off New Hampshire. So that intersection of New Hampshire and 108 is our everyday go through. So we visit all those um, every business almost every day.
Okay. Julia.
Yeah, my name is Julia Roberts. I've been living in Ashton just over 3 years now. I live right behind Sherwood High School off of Hidden Garden Lane. Only 3 years in Ashton, but I grew up down the road, just north of Aspen Hill off of Georgia and Norbeck. So, long time local in the area as well.
Okay. Paul?
Hello, everybody. Paul Langus. Been living in Ashton for 25 years. I live right on New Hampshire Avenue, about 1 mile south of the intersection of 108 and New Hampshire Avenue. I'm the publisher of the Greater Olney newspaper and heavily invested in the community.
And Chelsea?
Hi, my name is Chelsea Hughes. I've been living in Sandy Spring for 7 years. I came from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I've had some time in Newport News, Virginia. I'm a community advocate. I deal with housing, domestic violence. I like to consider myself a solutionist, so maybe solution management. And I have children that go to Farquhar and Brook Grove. But as of next year, they'll both be in Gaithersburg Middle School.
Okay. Michael? Michael, you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to speak.
Yeah, my apologies. I am a bit late in joining the meeting.
That's okay.
My name is Michael Thakur. I live on Hidden Garden Lane at the back. Like Julia, I too live in the same community. I've been living here since 2005 when the community here was established, and my children have grown up here, and we quite like it here. We think it's a great community, so we're hoping. I retired a few years ago, so I have some time on my hands, and I hope I could contribute somewhat to this process.
Excellent. Thank you. So next on the agenda, I had written reminder of procedures for virtual meetings, and that's just kind of to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. You don't always have to. It depends on if there's feedback. I usually use this headset because it kind of prevents some of these problems. And it's easier if I don't have to keep on hitting the mute button. I'm recording this meeting. I don't know if the future meetings will need to be recorded or not. Nobody really want to watch that, I don't think, but there might be something valuable to be learned. But it may be something that's not that fun to keep up with, so that may change in the future. So there is a raise hand function under reactions if you'd like to use it. Since everybody's camera is on for the most part, if you want to just raise your hand, that works as well. And so the next I wanted to talk about any changes to the agenda. And right before the meeting, I'd gotten an email from Nadine who had suggested kind of some Q&As that she had. So I would be happy to add her questions and anybody else's questions as a discussion item. It didn't occur to me, but it should have, that people might have a lot of questions. And so typically these meetings, I don't know how many people here, by just a show of hands, are on other committees that are similar to this, or I say Jessica is, and I know that Kathleen is usually part of some HOA meetings, but I don't know how technical they get in the rules of order. Kind of everybody has to make a motion, second that motion, everybody, then there's a vote and all that stuff. So we're supposed to do that stuff. Generally, you'd start with, let's look at approve the meetings from the last minute, or meeting minutes from the last meeting, or something like that. So here, just adding Q&A to the agenda, I would typically need to say, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? And somebody would say yes, and then we have a second. Yes, everybody vote. Anybody opposed? So would anybody like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to add a Q&A item?
I'll make the motion that we amend the agenda to add the Q&A.
I
And-
I
second that.
second.
All right, plenty of seconds. Anyone, all in favor? And anyone opposed?
Nobody. Nope. Opposed.
All right, I don't hear any proposals, so there you go. So then that brings us to the next item in the agenda, which is the Open Meetings Act. I don't know how many people went on to that website. Perhaps a few of you did. It's if you really dive into it, there's a lot in there. It's a really long act, but they do try to make it simple with some FAQs. But it does mean that the agendas have to be posted in advance. The notice of the meeting has to be given with enough advance time that people are aware of it before, right before it happens. And I did get a complaint on Friday that it would have been nice to have known about the meeting a little bit earlier. And I understand that, but we were just like, it's all we could do to get this thing rolling. And then the agenda itself needs to be posted in advance, typically at least 24 hours, although there's no firm rule. And then someone in the group has to have done the online training for the Open Meetings Act. So ideally, one of you guys would, or more than one of you people would want to do that training. It takes an hour and a half or so to get through. It's just you click next a bunch of times, then answer some questions. And if you get them wrong, you have to do that section again, and then you move on. But it is sufficient that I have done the training if you guys would like to lean on me for that. But if I don't show up for a meeting one day for whatever reason, then it would be nice to have a backup. But we don't have to talk about that in any depth right now. Just wanted you to be aware. Does anybody have any questions about the Open Meetings Act?
Is there any cost associated with the training? Like if all 10 of us take it?
No, it's just on the state's website. Anybody can, and you can stop like after you finished a section. You don't have to do the whole thing at once either. So they want people to take it. There were some groups in the county that recently got in trouble for not following the Open Meetings Act requirements as far as, especially with posting meeting minutes. But I think some of them weren't doing agendas or doing the correct public notice. So we're just trying to make sure that we do it correctly so that we don't get slapped in the hand. The next item
Jamie?
I had on, oh, go ahead.
This is Kathleen. So in terms of posting agendas, where do they get posted?
Okay. So that's going to be, right now it's on the same website we used for the, I'm going to share my screen. It's the same one we used when we were doing the master plan. If it gets complicated enough, they will create a sub page of this, but it's just, if you go to our website and click on planning, and then under planning, there's going to be a communities link. And once you click on communities, you can scroll over here and click Ashton. And then on Ashton Village Center, there is a button here that will jump you to that section. But as you can see, it's the next section anyway. So this has everybody's names on it. And then we will be putting the agendas and minutes underneath that. So right now we have this agenda available, and that's as far as we've gotten.
So how would the average person become aware of the meetings?
That's a good question. We sent out a notice to the people that were signed up for the mailing list. But we did not send out like a general press release. So I think it's going to just have to be word of mouth and sending out the message again to the list.
Sure.
I
We'll
don't know.
get the word out through our social media, through our website. We have Montgomery County Planning Facebook and Twitter. So we can definitely get the word out. This was just the first meeting. So uh, it's like stumbling blocks trying to get this off the ground. And then once we get going, we'll get the word out much more efficiently.
And Jessica, I see you have a question.
Would you be able to send us that link for that specific location where things are posted? again?
Um, I
I'll put it in the chat.
I can put it in the chat, but then you'd have to make sure to copy, click on it now. I think we actually have a shortened URL available that's just like montgomeryplanning.org/AVC. I think that still goes here. I haven't tried it in a while. And I've just noticed, I noticed before, but I forgot. We have one guest with us. I see he's turned his camera off, but Kevin Foster, would you like to introduce yourself since you're the only audience member we have?
Sure. My camera's not working, huh?
It was on.
Oh,
there you are.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Kevin Foster. I'm a local planner and landscape architect. I've lived in Sunshine actually for 35 years, and I'm involved in a number of projects around Ashton and Sandy Spring.
Okay, thank you.
This is Paul. Getting back to the agenda, we'll be more than happy to publish in our calendar events in the Greater Olney newspaper and put it on our website with a link to Montgomery County.
Well, that is a super idea.
Paul, I just wrote that in the chat.
Okay, good. Oh, I see it. And we go out to 18,000 homes that are, and the nucleus is around Ashton, so we'll get a very good communication out there for this
Yeah,
group.
I know that does help in the Olney Town Center group. A lot of people are aware of the meetings because of that.
Can it be also included in, is it Ashton Neighbors or Ashton Neighbor Ashton, or that it's about 12,000, so it's a online format for the Ashton. Isn't that
who
what
does
it,
that?
Ashton Next Door, that's what it's called. I'll send the link.
Yeah, I think you have to be within a local neighborhood in general to, I think our planning department may have a Nextdoor account that would allow them to publish things, and I'll have to follow up with Don and or our communications team to find out how to get things on Nextdoor.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Sure. I'm
Chelsea.
sorry. I was just wondering if you can send us a link for the training. As I'm seeing that there's 3 different ways to take it, but ultimately they're not directly with the county. I noticed that you have to be in a school setting. So I was just wondering if you can send me the link for that, please.
Yeah, it's not the one I'm talking about is not require a school setting so quickly.
Oh.
Sure.
Okay, it just said class offered by the Office of Attorney General and the University of Maryland Institute for Government Services and Research. So I was just assuming that was a class setting. I'm sorry.
No, I'll put this in the chat right now, but I can send it out again later. It's just a sublink from the main Open Meetings Act page, but it's not entirely obvious. You have to read through a while to get to where it says online class. Okay. Are there any more questions for the time being? And so then I have this very small discussion item that just says redevelopment of the southeast quadrant. And I believe one of Nadine's questions was getting at this. We have not gotten an application for the redevelopment yet. But we have had conversations that lead us to believe that we should expect one relatively soon, which is why we needed to make sure to get this this group set up so that it would be ready to act on any proposals that came in once they came in.
Right. Well, I was asking about is, were there any pre-submittal meetings with any developers for the Ashton area? And how do we find out when you have those meetings? Because we realize they're not necessarily part of the public record until they formally submit a plan. And of course, we want to be like Bethesda or Alney and the other advisory committees and get to see the ideas early on and weigh in a bit in, that's our function, on them before the developer has invested a lot of money in these plans. So how do we find out they're happening, and what can we find out has already happened?
Sure. For some of the development plans, the developer actually has to post a public meeting before they actually submit a plan. So, in some ways, the community may find out about the plan submission before we do. But after they do that, we strongly encourage the developer to actually meet with this group um, as part of their process before they go to development review committee to submit a concept plan. After they go to development review committee, they'll come back and get all the feedback and input from all the county agencies, including um, the planning department, and they will go back and make a formal submission. And at that point, before they go and make a formal submission, we will tell them they should go back and meet with the advisory committee again to get final plan comments. But they are not required to meet with the planning department ahead of time with if they have questions or meetings. A lot of times that they do, we can always keep the board aware of any meetings we may have, just as an FYI. But when they do come in, we will make that strong suggestion that they meet with the advisory committee before and after the development review committee before their final plan submission.
Yeah. So I was specifically asking about submittal meetings to be aware of that. And of course, would be ideal. And really, I think it takes place in Bethesda and the Alney programs where they are included in on meetings like that. So.
Right. As of right now, we have not received any pre-submittal meetings, from the developer. I don't not sure what the other committees do, but we will also keep the advisory committee aware um, of any meetings we may have. I'm not sure we would invite the committee to questions that developers may have, just general questions they may have to the planning department. But if there was discussion that needed to involve the committee, we could definitely investigate that and let you all know.
Great, thanks.
And I see Michael has his hand up.
Thank you. I was just listening to the conversation and the question, and it seems to me that these questions and perhaps others that might be forthcoming may well be questions that relate to the agenda item having to do with the procedures, the rules of procedures, because much of the issues to do with how the planning department relates to the advisory committee and the role of the advisory committee vis-a-vis the planning department as a government entity needs to be clear. And I have long held prior to even joining the committee that this is simply an advisory committee. It is not meant to substitute for nor to supplant the government. So we need to be clear about that. So certainly I expect and would look forward to some lines of communication from the planning department to the advisory committee in terms of alerting them to proposals that might be forthcoming. And some of these issues are raised in this document. So that's the reason I'm saying perhaps if there are questions material to this document, we could probably go to that if the other questions are relating to that. So that's the reason I raised my hand.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a good background thoughts to have when we talk about that section. I guess it was hard for me to know what order is the best one for the agenda for these items, since there's a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing going on here. So we'll get to that and circle back to it. I see that Harry Berman has joined us, and I was wondering if he could unmute himself, possibly turn on his camera and introduce himself.
Wait. Sorry about that. Camera should be on. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry for being late. I'm having trouble getting the audio to come through Teams, so that's why I just dialed in.
Okay.
Um,
Your
I live
camera
in
was
Ashton.
on for a second, but I think you've turned it off again.
You can't hear me through the phone?
I can hear you through the phone, but your camera was on briefly and now it's off. So I was
How
going
about
to
that?
ask. Okay, there you are. So we see you and we hear you, and there's no feedback.
Great. That's good, Jeff. Yeah. So again, Harry Berman. I live in Ashton. I've been here about 10 years. I grew up in Montgomery County. I've probably lived within about 12-mile radius of where I am right now my entire life. So I'm looking forward to helping everybody implement the Ashton community plan.
Okay, thank you for joining us. This is being recorded, so if you need to later, you could watch the parts you've missed.
Thank you.
So that was that's like I don't have any more specific information about the Southeast Quadrant development at this time. Like we have not had a meeting with the developer since the master plan was in progress. So we don't really have any more to be able to tell you about that. But I am going to go look at the other questions that Nadine had asked. She had asked what's the role of county executive staff, which in this case would be the Regional Services Center director or staff member. The one in the East County Regional Center, his name is Jeru Bande. Bande. He was invited to this meeting. At first he'd accepted it, but later declined. He's, I think, busy with a lot of different groups, so I don't know what his schedule is, but he, he is the director of the East County Regional Services Center. And unfortunately, even though Ashton is a very small area, there's a dividing line between the East and West, Mid-County Services Center. So Amy lives right off of a street that divides the two service centers. So like the high school and everything, what's the name of the street that goes to your development?
So
From
the three of us
108?
are on Hidden Garden Lane.
Hidden Garden Lane, right. So if you're on the west side of Hidden Garden Lane, you're in the Mid-County region. And if you're east of that, you're in the East County. So most of what's happening in Ashton will be in the East County center because there's only the one real undevelopable portion. But theoretically, he would be available as a person that knows the most about what's going on in the region in that district to be able to help out. He's not required to, but I am specifically called out as being a staff, not me, but somebody that has my role is supposed to staff the committee to organize the committee, to organize meetings, schedule things, keep the website updated, that kind of thing. And if there's some small amount of printing or something like that that needs to be done, like if we meet in person and we want to have printed minutes and agendas, that would be something that the planning department would do.
Right.
So if I understand that correctly, the take-home message is that the county executives don't have any direct role on a
No, they're just to support the community to the extent possible as people that are more informed about the goings on in general in the area. Don, were you going to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to explain really quickly. And sorry if we over-explain. What we understand, we have people, who may be familiar with the process, not familiar, so we end up explaining a lot. But just for those who may not be familiar, we're part of Maryland National Park and Planning Commission. So almost our direction comes from the county council, not so much from the county executive. So while the county executive agencies may not have direct influence on this advisory committee as far as how it's been set up, because it's through the actual planning board, which is a part of Maryland National Capital Planning and Park Commission. I do want to let you know if there's things, like developments down on state roads, that's still the county DOT, and that, county agency would be under the county executive that would have influence on a particular development, not so much on this advisory committee. So, that's something to be aware of in the future. And as far as procedures go, If a development comes in, it would be it would have to go before the planning board. And usually, how advisory committees work is that once a development comes in, they meet with the advisory committee. The advisory committee would write a letter either for support, uh, denial, or opposition. The planning board would strongly um, take those comments very seriously when they're making their ruling, and then rule on behalf of the developer on how they see fit. Now, sometimes they may listen to the advisory committee, sometimes they may not. That's their decision. We're here to give the planning board as much information as possible, but we don't always know how they're going to act or how they're going to vote. So I just also want to let the advisory committee know that um, you can give your letter of support or denial or opposition, but it's ultimately up to the planning board to make that final decision for development.
Excuse me, I have a question. This is Chelsea.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
And then Michael.
I have two questions. Is there a way to raise my hand when I call in? And then my second question is, can we ask questions like, how will this affect low-income family or the cost of living for Ashton, Sandy Spring?
I think I'm going to look up the answer to your first question about raising your hand, but the second question, it's something that would be a very appropriate question to ask once there is a development proposal that is being considered by the committee.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Michael, were you going to ask?
It just slipped me. My apologies. It just slipped me. Actually, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what I was going to say on that. Forgive me.
Let's see. How to raise your hand in a Teams meeting. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I think for now we'll just have to accept. You may need to. Oh, go ahead,
Jeremy,
Harry.
if you go to where your camera and microphone are, there's a little hand that you actually raise your hand with. It's a little symbol. It looks like a hand.
Okay.
And when you want to put your hand down, you just unclick it again.
I called in.
So yeah, so you called in just using a voice phone line, right? You didn't dial in through Teams, right?
Yes,
right, but on Teams, if you're looking at the video, there's like a menu that'll come up if you push your cursor down to the bottom. And that's where you
Right, but
unmute
she's just using her phone as a phone and not through the app. So there's probably like a pound something that you have to hit to get a hand raised. And Kathleen has her hand raised.
So a lot of the focus on the plan interest is on the southeast corner, but some provisions of the plan are, also involved improvement of the 650 108 intersection, side paths, some historical or signage, those kinds of things. It seems like they would involve some of the county agencies that are under the exec. So it seems like it would be helpful to have somebody or have some way of involving them.
Well, I say in the
Or is
only
it,
town. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, or is it just when we address those issues that we bring in whoever we need to?
I think so. I know that the Only Town Center has created like subcommittees, like transportation and development and master plan. This town center that they want has its own committee, executive committee. So they sometimes will have a report like each meeting on, and there's one of the people on their committee that's in regular conversation with the State Highways Administration about issues in Olney, and she'll report on those, like some storm drain that might be messed up and causing cars to have flat tires and stuff. So there is, I guess as things progress, we could set up such committees, or just appoint 2 people at the time that may be interested in following up, or willing to if they're not interested.
It also depends
Well,
on the
it just
process.
like, what's
I was
that?
just going to say, yeah, it just also depends on the process. I'll just say really quickly, just depending on what kind of process it is for road improvements. Sometimes it can be a simple road improvement that doesn't involve park and planning. Sometimes it can be a more exhaustive process. There's things it's called mandatory referrals, and there might be that might be a government process that would involve planning, parking planning, in which we have our own transportation planners that could come and speak. But for any other type of process that would involve any other improvements that outside of parking planning, we can definitely get um, county agencies involved.
Well, without any improvement to that
Sorry if you
intersection,
hear a baby in the background.
any, what's that? So
Sorry
without
if you
any
hear a baby in the
improvement,
background.
without any improvement to that intersection, any commercial development on the southeast corner is going to become an island because you can't cross 108 and New Hampshire Avenue. So it seems like that's going to be kind of a big interest.
Agree.
A broader
Right.
question on
Mhm.
that, actually, if I might. And the question, it relates to the protocol because what I think Kathleen is asking is quite critical in the sense that the document speaks to the importance of the committee being kept appraised of private sector proposals for developments. But what it does not speak to, it seems, is what of public projects, which to me is quite important that the committee be aware of, and projects that are material to that intersection. And especially as we all are aware, there have been many concerns about the intersection there, and the developments, the housing development. So knowing what the county is planning and how those capital projects fit into the broader plan that we are all trying to assist with implementation is also quite important. Right?
Yeah, I think sometimes the state does a lot of planning for their roads where they don't involve us until they're fairly far down the road, no pun intended, with their plans. So it may be a good idea for us to find the regional state highways person that you could talk to directly to get the status of that particular project. We don't track the planning department what the state is planning to do with every intersection. It would take all of our time. So might be best if we have somebody on this committee reach out to that person and talk to them directly, and then report on the next meeting if they find out anything, or if they don't find out anything. It's something that's kind of a little difficult for us in the planning department to keep up with directly. And eventually they would have to submit an application that's called a mandatory referral. And the mandatory referral application would then you would be informed of that and be able to provide comments on the mandatory referral. But ideally, you would talk to them long before they submit that application.
I'd be glad to take on that, reach out to the state.
Okay, do you know anyone that do you know how to get a hold? Because I actually don't know anybody, but I'd have to find out through our transportation planners and contacts. So if you already have one, that would be great.
I don't, but I have some contacts, so I'll reach out to them, and if I hit a dead end, I'll reach back to you.
Okay, and I might bother Kevin Foster on this question. Kevin, do you have experience speaking directly to um, the
Yeah,
state?
we're involved with a number of projects with the state, and I can certainly give you the name of the guy that is pretty much the contact that you'll need.
Okay, that
I'll
sounds
send it
great.
to you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kevin.
Yep.
Michael, do you have a question, or should I, or do you just need to lower your hand? I lowered it for you before, so I should teach you to fish. Okay. So that was, I think Nadine had one more question that I haven't even gotten to yet.
Sorry.
Let's see, pre-submittal meeting, my role, I think I talked about the executive role, and then have I had pre-submittal meetings? I think we have covered your questions. But if anyone has any additional questions, now would be a great time to ask them before we proceed with the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Excuse me, this is Chelsea. I would like to join the transportation group, if committee, if possible.
Sure.
Okay, well, that sounds fine, Paul. I think you probably have Chelsea's email address at least through
Yep.
the meeting invitation. And I apologize that you guys probably all got like 3 meeting invitation updates from me. I don't know what was happening with Outlook. Every time I forwarded the meeting, it's like, would you like to cancel the changes or update? And I'm like, update? Because it was the wrong answer. So Chelsea, I think if you could try hitting *5 on your phone, I'm going to see if that brings up a raised hand. It did, and now hit *5 again. There you go. So that's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
It's obvious, right? *5. Why not *5? I don't know why they picked that. They had to pick something. But I digress. So if everyone would like to, we can go on to the next action item, which is a discussion of the rules of procedure that I sent out. That's kind of a draft. I based it on the Bethesda one. I tweaked it, updated it based on my experience with the Only group and the Rustic Roads group. But I'm sure that some changes could be made to it. I know Michael seems like he might have looked through it and maybe has an opinion on the matter. It might be too soon just to jump in and say, let's vote on approving these procedures. People may want to take some time to look them over. So what does anybody have to say about the rules of procedure? Michael.
I didn't see that.
Oh, go ahead, Paul. You didn't see?
Did you include that on the meeting invite or on a separate email?
I think it was a separate email, but it's possible that I didn't send it out.
No, you sent it. I also did not open it though, because I was reading the other stuff about the open committee.
Open meetings, yes, okay. All right, well, I think that we should, I was expecting to not vote on those right away, just because this is the first chance you've had to look at them. So we should meet soon, at least just to vote on those procedures. And I don't know if we need a committee a subcommittee that would like to gather input from people, or if we should just meet again relatively soon, maybe in a month or something, to vote on the procedures and if maybe the officers or something like that. What does anybody think?
It's probably better just to look this over and meet again within in a month.
Yeah. So in the next month we'll have the agenda item to discuss any changes people want to make and then to vote on them.
So would it? I mean, if we have. I'm sorry, Michael.
Yeah, Michael's hand is up, so let's go with Michael first.
Just wanted to say, I only had a very tiny questions on it, so it's not like I will be putting a lot of suggestions and changes. So, but I'm quite happy that we all should read it because it's important. But
okay.
The things I have on my mind would be, and as you read it, you could reflect, is The question I had was how do you treat confidentiality with a private sector investor giving you information about what they're proposing to do? And how does that probably accord? What's the framework to treating that information that you have, and how does that relate to the broader Maryland? What's it called? There's some kind of
Maryland Open
meeting
Meetings Act.
transparency. Yes, I don't really have information on that, but I know that generally private sector folks are taking risks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to sort of manage how you treat your information, and so I assume that there's some overarching protocol that guides how the committee will treat with confidentiality in general, and balance that with transparency that you also want to find desirable. So it's just a thought that we can reflect on.
Sure.
And
I mean,
that,
I
that
can
was
answer
the
just
only
yeah.
suggestion.
I can answer this really quickly. These are all public meetings, and any information that a developer would present to the board would have to be to a full quorum of people, to a public meeting. So that's how we would address the issue. There shouldn't be any separate meetings or separate emails uh, by developers to individual members. It should be to the full board, so that everyone could be aware all at the same time.
Kathleen, were you going to add something?
Yeah, but I'm old enough that I forgot what it was. So you can.
Well,
One question.
Yes,
Sorry,
Amy?
I'll raise my physical hand. So one question on the, like an individual correspondence with a developer. What if, let's say, your homeowners association, you're representing a homeowners association and asking that question of the developer in that capacity, but not in this capacity? Then, I mean, I would think like you bring that information over to this group.
Well, yeah, I mean, you as a private citizen or whatever your HOA is, you can just have your correspondence with the developer as you normally would. You're under no obligation to share that, and I guess you would have to be upfront with the developer that you are also on this board. But I'm not sure about the disclosure requirements, but it does seem like it would be something that would be important. I don't know what else to say about it.
I mean, if there was private conversation, probably just a good form just to let the applicant know that you're on the advisory committee that would be making an advisory letter on against that particular development.
Yeah, I guess I should probably find out if the other groups have tackled this question. I don't know what they do in Olney or Bethesda. And I see Julia has her hand up.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify for myself, in terms of confidentiality, because it is a public meeting, we will always meet in a public meeting setting, except for if there were ever those exceptions which allowed confidentiality. So essentially, any information that we are bringing to this meeting or developers are bringing to us is therefore publicly available information, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So it sounds like what I am hearing is that people would like to look over the rules of procedure, and so I guess we need a motion to vote. Oh, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, before we do that, is everybody familiar with using track changes in Word? If so, I would recommend that everybody provide their comments and track changes. We could do a merge document and then share that at the next meeting, and then we can go through a combined document, comment by comment, and vote on it.
That would kind of require an order, though, like somebody would have to do it and send it to the next person so that the comments become
if you merge it all, it won't duplicate things. But you could do it in a Google Docs, and then you might be able to get into it live.
So I don't know if anyone has a Google Docs
I can do Google Doc. I don't know if everybody else is capable of doing Google
Right.
Docs.
So if you put it on Google Docs, you could let people know where it is. So they could
Right.
go and do that, and then you could all be commenting at once.
Yeah, I would recommend that. That'll make our next meeting really productive.
Okay. So
I can make a Google Doc.
does anybody want to make a motion that Amy make a Google Doc so that we can then
I
consider,
motion that Amy make a Google Doc to share the rules and procedures.
and then also to next, vote on them, discuss them and vote on them in the next meeting.
Yes.
I second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
In favor.
Yeah.
Is anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. And Paul, your hand is still up.
Oh, sorry, I'll put it
That
down.
is okay. Nobody minds. All right. Next item is selection of members serving initial 2-year and 3-year terms. We just came up with this. Other groups that have started have had these staggered terms so that you get some sort of place where not everybody is leaving at the same time. Does anyone have a fun idea for how we could decide who's going to serve for 3 years and who's going to serve for 2?
Or yeah,
Well, the
do you agree with
document
2 or
says
3?
it's random.
Okay.
Yeah, random, but
The
like
doc-
what random mechanism should we use? I didn't actually
I
find
don't
like
My
an
guess is
online.
people are wedded to a 2 versus wedded to a 3. We could start with that. And if too many people fall in one versus the other category, then we can do
Well,
that.
Jamie, I have an idea. Everyone could raise their hand, and then it'll give you the number in which people ordered it, and the evens could be 2 years, and the odds could be 3 years.
Oh, so if I say like 1, 2, 3, everybody raise their hand.
You should be
And
able
then,
to see. No, on the.
yeah, so yeah, I know it does show the order as like a 1 and a 2, and I see Amy is already odd. I mean, it has an odd number. So everybody just raise your hand. Chelsea, that means hit *5. Michael, raise your hand. Paul, raise your hand. So we have 9 hands. I think, who are we missing? Paul, have you got your hand up?
I'm trying.
Okay. I think you're going to be even based on the fact that you're the last. All right. So all the evens was that 2 or 3? Did we decide? All right. Odds 2 years, even 3 years. How's that sound?
Sure.
I haven't looked at the names yet. Odd. Everybody odd is 2-year members. So that's Amy, Kathleen, Harry, Michael, and Nadine. You guys are all going to serve for 2 years, and then your time's going to be up, and you can run for the open seat. And then we have on the other side, we have Paul, Chelsea. I think the Ashton guest is Leanne, Jessica, and Julia will be serving for 3 years. Now, there's not going to be a whole lot of activity in this group in general because Ashton, the village center, is only 125-acre part of the county. So serving for 3 years, there may not be a whole lot of meetings in that 3-year period, but especially once the southeast quadrant has come in with an application. But there will be things, bike paths, intersection improvements that hopefully will require meetings going forward. All right, so that's that. Now we have the possible selection of officers. Now this depends on what the rules of procedure are. So I propose that that we discuss this more fully next. We won't be choosing them this meeting, obviously. But does anyone have any suggestions or that? For those that didn't read it, I had suggested a chair and then someone that I call the vice chair / secretary. That person that the chair would be running the meetings, doing these procedural things that I'm doing right now. whereas the vice chair would step in if the chair is unavailable for some meeting, but also would be the one that's actually making sure that the meetings get circulated before the next one so that they can be approved, the meeting minutes. I don't know if anyone thinks this is good or bad. Kathleen?
Well, I was just going to ask, so it is likely that we will not always agree on everything. So what role does the chair or the vice chair have in terms of resolving disputes or disagreements?
I had put something in the procedures that said that there may be a disagreement. So if more than 3 people, if four people disagree, or 5, if there's a split, whatever, then there would be 2. So if you can think of something to put into the procedures that handles the situation where you think if the chair isn't interested in the minority's opinion, how to delicately and seamlessly have someone be in charge of the opposition, if you will, then if you could add that to the procedures as a suggestion, if you think of something. And I see, I guess Michael's hand was up first.
because I read it just not so long ago. I think it says that minority views can be should be included in the final report, even if their votes or views don't carry. But what bothered me, and I think we could reflect on it before the next meeting, is if there's a 5-5 vote. The chairman in some agencies have been, the chairman has a vote to super majority vote. But in this case, this proposal seems to be that that the views of the 2 different groups, if I might call it that, should be proposed to the planning department and sent forward. So it's not like the committee will make a final decision as to what it is coming out on. Not it's not forcing the committee to make a final decision if there is a tie, but rather that both groups of views should be sent forward to the committee. So that's something to the planning higher ups. So that's something to think about, how you organize ourselves, if we want to do that or not do that. So that was one of the things that bugged me a little bit, but it's just
okay. Yeah. And Nadine?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Probably logical for these 2 officers to have 2 and 3-year terms so that there some consistency could flow with one of them. That person would offer.
Well, I suggested that they be voted new every year anyway.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't
But
see
that was just a suggestion, so look that over as well. How long should a term be?
And would they be able to, and I'm just raising this so we can think about it if you haven't already addressed it. If they are voted every year, then how many terms could they serve for?
Yeah, and I think I suggested 3 before they serve. They could serve again if they take a year off.
Yeah, I think the group ought to think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely, I put it in there, but it was, again, they're all suggestions. I vote for Amy's cat.
He is a big fan of teams, let me tell you. Joins every meeting.
So can we get some sort of motion on this possible selection of officers, or to move this to the next meeting somehow?
I make a motion and that it be part of the review of the included in the Google Docs that we're talking about doing.
I second.
All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed to that? All right, I think that the hands that I saw at the end were in favor and not against. So let's move on to the next one, which is to select the next meeting date. if we get an application or more information about the development of the southeast quadrant, I would send that out, and we would need to have a meeting fairly soon after that. But since we don't have that, we do need to go over these procedures and vote on that. Now, it could be a week from now, it could be 2 weeks from now, it could be 3 days from now. I don't know. Does anyone have a good idea about when we should meet to do the rules and the officers?
I mean, I'm okay with 2 weeks if that fits in people's calendars. That should be enough time to read things. And not so long that you forget.
It's only a page and a half.
Yeah, I'm fine with 2 weeks out.
Okay. Let me look at my calendar to make sure that's so 2 weeks out is, why is my computer slow all of a sudden?
That puts us on the 20th, which is Juneteenth.
Monday.
Oh, that's right. So that's, I believe, a county holiday.
Would
So
Tuesday work, or do you want to do the following Monday?
hold on a second. My computer has decided that right now it wants to not bring up my Outlook.
And I'm assuming we'll do it in the evening again for everybody's work schedules.
I'm assuming that as well.
Okay.
So I have a meeting on Thursday night of that week, but other than that, I'm available the 21st, 22nd. If next week works, I'm available next Monday night. I see someone is proposing 7:30, so we do need to talk about the time of the next meeting as well. I don't know if 7:30 works better for people or not.
I'd be fine with 7:30. I'm traveling next week, so that's. But I could do the 21st or the 22nd.
I'm open either day, 21st or 22nd.
So if we do it on the
Flexible.
21st, we would consistently be on a Monday. If that makes
The
any difference.
20th is Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
Something I can't hear.
Yeah, 21, 22 will work for me as well.
So Nadine, are you able to hear now? You've lost the audio.
That's weird.
Let's go with 21st.
All right, so Tuesday the 21st at Nadine had suggested 7:30. Does it work better to do 7:30 or earlier at 6, or like what do people like? I mean, Michael, do you have an opinion on this?
No, I had a small question. Actually, what's more like a AOB. It's a request. So I'm okay with all of this. But a small question would be the action plan. It's quite a big document, and I'm on page 46 out of 124, I believe. Is it possible that we can get hard copies of this document?
Of the
It's going to be
master
a
plan itself?
Yeah, it's going to be a reference document because you want to see all the time. It's on, so what did we say about this? Or I don't know if it's going to be easy to.
I'll have to talk
It's
to
just a thought. I mean,
Don.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. Like we may be told that you would have to
5
purchase
years is
one
a
at the
reference
information
document.
counter, but I'll have to talk to Don about whether we could make physical copies available. That the funding of these groups is always tricky. So sometimes we can provide things and sometimes we can't.
Yeah, we'll have an answer by next meeting.
I much prefer 7:30 than 6 or 6:30. 7:30 is way better for me.
Okay. All right. So 7:30 on the 21st, we're going to get together and talk about the rules, vote on those, and then based on those rules, we'll vote on officers. Does anyone make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that we meet on the 21st, that we select officers at that point, and that we go through the procedures document.
I second that.
Okay, and I think that's through the agenda. Uh, obviously anybody that wants to say anything can say anything at this point, ask any questions, any follow-up. I'm personally getting hungry.
If the committee members don't have any more questions, I know we have one person in the audience. Just want to ask the
So
audience if they
I have
have.
a question. What about
Yes.
future meeting locations?
Oh, that's right. That was supposed to be on here, and I think I forgot to put it in. I know that Nadine has suggested the Friends Community House. Is that what it's called? Community something. I did speak to the man who runs it, and he is willing to make it available. He said there's not a charge for it, but people have typically made some sort of donation, perhaps. He said it does cost something to provide like the toilet paper in the bathroom, to run the air conditioner. Again, we don't have any funding for this group, so I'm not quite sure if that's going to work. It will work, but do we feel guilty about it? I don't know. So it may be a good choice. I'm not sure. The museums has also been brought up as a choice. I have not talked to anyone there. Does anyone here have contacts at the Sandy Spring Museum or any other place to call?
I do. I can reach out to them.
How do they usually do there? Does anyone know how their public meeting space is usually allocated?
I don't,
Okay,
but I
so
can find.
that would be great. And Chelsea, I believe, has a question.
So my first question, I have two questions. My first question is, whatever we do, does it have to be indoors? And then my second question is, well, comment first. You said that we don't have funding for this group. Is there a way that we can involve our community and do like a fundraising block party so that this group will be able to engage but also fund?
That's a
Just an idea.
great, Chelsea, that's a great point. And I think we can meet in the gardens. There's tables in the courtyard of the Sandy Spring Museum. And if you call Philip, um, Alexander Downey at 301-774-0022, he could probably tell us and when it's available, and when it's warm enough, we could meet outside, or we could wear a
The
coat.
HOC has, we can use HOC's property as long as it's a community thing. So as long as we're able to let them know that, hey, we're doing this thing, they would allow us to use their property for free. I know that because I've been able to do that with other groups.
Is that the right in Sandy Spring off 108 that you're speaking of?
Yes, so they call it Sandy Spring Meadows, but that's the low income area. Housing Opportunities Commission has townhomes in that area. It's like 3 different cul-de-sacs, 4 entrances, and they would allow us to use the entire driveway space by the playgrounds.
Okay, so there's not a meeting room there. It's just the open space would be available.
Yes, I just thought about that as a free alternative.
Okay. Kathleen, did you want to?
I was just wondering if I could back up and get on the transportation committee. I've done a little bit of effort in that area and I might be able to help.
Sure, I'll include you, Kathleen.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
So we have then the Friends community, we have the Sandy Spring Museum, we have outdoor space at the HOC property.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody could
investigate.
theoretically just meet at a restaurant, like
Sure, I'll
it'd
say
be a
one
pretty
thing
big
before
table.
Jessica. Yeah, we can all investigate that, and we'll probably the next meeting will be virtual, but we'll bring up all the options to the committee, make a decision. Jessica, please.
I was just going to say that at my Remax office in Olney, we have a conference room. I could always ask it and use. I could reserve it. If we
Okay,
need.
thank you. That might be good.
I think it's really important because people are traveling and their offices are moving around. If they are virtual, I think that's, of course, we want to have some in person, but perhaps the next one in person, but I think virtual would be very helpful.
Yeah, so we could, I mean, do we want them to always be virtual, or am I hearing that some people would really appreciate if they were in person?
Well, just in the interest of time, we might just have to discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay, so I'll put that on the agenda.
My impression, if I might say, I thought Donald was saying that at the next meeting, which may be virtual, he would consider and propose options for possible physical locations that we could have meeting, and thereafter, even if it means having virtual sometimes thereafter, but at least having physical location options. Am I wrong? Am I right
Correct.
on that?
Correct.
On my interpretation? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we could always offer space where we work, but nobody is going to want to get down to Wheaton for these meetings. So hopefully we can find something in Ashton, Sandy Spring, possibly only. Okay.
Before we end, can I just double check on the emails that I'm going to have this Google Doc share to? I've got assistingparents2@gmail. I've got H Berman. I've got JS. Oh, I think that's you, Jamie. I might
No,
have your name
Jessica.
wrong.
It's probably
Jessica, thank
Jessica.
you. And then I've got J Robbie Rob.
That's Julia.
Okay. And then Kathleen, I've got you. I've
You got
got
her twice.
probably. I've got Leanne. I've got Nadine. I've got Paul. I've got Michael. Did I miss anybody?
I think you got
Chelsea.
everybody. Yeah, I think she said Chelsea. Yeah, that was the assist to living, or what it be?
Okay, assist to living is Chelsea. Assisting parents too is Chelsea.
That's
Yep,
what
that's me.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, now I see that Chelsea's hand is up, but it might just be from before, so I'm going to lower it. But if you did have something to say, let us know. Okay, does anyone want to move that the meeting be adjourned?
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Second that.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, so thank you for participation, and Harry, I think you can use the same link that you joined the meeting to see the video once it's available, but I'll try to figure that out because we need to make it available in general for other people. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, except for Nadine has her hand up again. Nope, just kidding. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.